This is Andy Crouch from All About Beer. I wanted to take a moment to thank Dust Bowl Brewing for becoming our latest underwriter. With a spirit born decades ago in Oklahoma, the Central California brewery started with Hops of Wrath IPA and grew into an award-winning regional brewery with 4 locations. The folks at Dust Bowl appreciate the importance of supporting beer journalism, and their financial support helps us pay our writers, illustrators, and photographers. Learn how you can affordably support journalists by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Hall, and this week it's a conversation with Brandon Jones of Embrace the Funk at Yazoo Brewing. It was recorded last month during the Craft Brewers Conference in Philadelphia. We're talking mixed culture fermentation, patience, expressive yeast, and so much more. A quick programming note. All About Beer is happy to once again be participating in the Black Fly Beer Camp at Great Camp Sagamore in the Adirondack Mountains of New York from June 26th to 28th. Join me and a fantastic group of brewers for a weekend of great beer in a beautiful setting. Plus, Nate Schweber playing live by the campfire. Spots are limited, and you can reserve your spot now by visiting sagamore.org. And as you know, and I've been talking about this on the show for a while, and Andy shows up at the cold open of every episode, but the way we're able to keep bringing original content to the beer industry and to curious beer drinkers is through your support. We've created an affordable underwriting program that is easy on your budget, helps you get visibility, and is an altruistic way to directly fund writers, photographers, and editors. Please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. When you're at the website, poke around. You can read some of the recent articles. You can go through the archives, and you can tune into other podcasts like One Iconic Beer, hosted by Jeff Allworth, Brew to Brew, and the All About Beer podcast, which is hosted by M. Souter and Don Tass. You won't be disappointed. We're on social media at All About Beer, where you can keep up with everything else we have going on. We'll get into this conversation in a moment, but first, here's a note from this episode's sponsors. I thank them for their support. I hope you'll give them your business.
This episode is sponsored by John I. Haas on their new LupoCore Enhanced T90 hop pellets, engineered for peak sensory performance and ultimate peace of mind. Designed for brewers of all sizes, LupoCore delivers consistent sensory outcomes, reliable brewhouse performance, and scalable application across production volumes. Using Sensory Plus selected hops and Haas's advanced pellet processing technology, LupoCore elevates hop expression while reducing brew process loss, all without requiring brewers to change their process. Contact your Haas Sales Representative or visit lupohops.com to learn more.
Today's episode is brought to you by StompStickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with StompStickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting StompStickers.com. You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com.
If you were at CBC in Philadelphia, hopefully you stopped by the Senos booth or ran into them at their sponsored events around Philly. For everyone who missed it, Senos announced their latest hardware innovations. Senos is the world's first complete solution for data-driven fermentation management. Real-time, predictive insights directly from your tanks, within reach for every brewery. Catch issues early, save batches, and grow your margins. Brew smarter at Senos.com. That's SENNOS.com.
During the recent Craft Brewers Conference, All About Beer set up at Human Robot for a suite of podcasts. For my turn at the mic, I was happy to get together with Brandon Jones, the longtime brewer and creator of Embrace the Funk. It's a conversation that goes into the evolution of extremed beers and how that turned into nuanced, complex brews. As Jones has begun to note the shift of consumer preferences, he's found a move away from hazy IPAs towards unique, experience-driven beers. As you'll hear, he advocates for brewers to ask questions and to learn from each other. And as the industry evolves, he shares insight into his brewery's cider program, which is inspired by European natural ciders. And we talk about the importance of storytelling in beer. Recorded in front of an enthusiastic audience at Human Robot, here's our conversation. Hey, Mr. Jones.
Hi, Mr. Hall.
Nice to see you, pal.
Good to see you. Glad to clink a glass in person.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's go back to the beginning of Embrace the Funk and what first drew you to mixed fermentation and what that world looked like then, and then square it with what you think it is now.
Man, that world, it seems like a million years ago.
And it wasn't that long.
It wasn't. I mean, my first professional one was about 15 years ago. But, I mean, I had started brewing these beers because I couldn't find these beers. And then we became, our area in Tennessee, we became a little more of, upper in imports, and we were able to find all these Belgian beers that I'd never heard of, and I loved looking at the books. I mean, the internet was still in its infancy at that point, so you didn't have sites, you didn't have the Mad Fermentationists, you didn't have Milk the Funk, you had, I mean, back then we had the tapes, the VHS tapes of Michael Jackson's beer tours, we had his writings, we had, sorry. I was like, oh, did I say something wrong?
No, I'm playing footsie with you under the table. It's, and you had to make it awkward in front of all these dudes.
Through this. Yeah. So this is going to be real serious. So at that point, I was in Johnson City. So Upper East Tennessee, if you don't know where it is, it's where Tennessee meets Virginia and North Carolina. I was at school at ETSU. I had just started my job in television, and I was living in a fraternity house, and I had what I thought was really good money, so I just started buying things that were expensive, and I started buying beer, and I came across better beer, and that's how I learned about imports and other beers that were not called Southpaw or Red Dog or pitchers that were $1.99 at that point. And so when I discovered my first sour, which was Leafman's Heidenbahn, and that blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is sour, like nothing had ever liquid-wise at that point. This would have been like 1998, 1999. I'd never tasted anything like that. I just assumed anything sour was going to cause some sort of harm or something went really off the rails with it. But the thing that comforted me and the best line that I ever read to get me into sours was from Michael Jackson, and it said, "The world's finest provisional Flemish brown."
Yeah.
And that statement there set me on a course. That one statement on a paper bottle that I unwrapped set me on this course that I had to discover everything about it. I was so floored that beer could taste like this and beer was sellable like this. And it was from Europe. And it wasn't, at that time, my knowledge of European beer was Pilsner and Bass and beers like that. So fast forward to when I started brewing my own, there wasn't knowledge out there like we have now. And so I just thought I would try to create that. And so putting together the database and just speaking with all the brewers that were willing to give up their secrets. At that time, I mean, I've said this before, but the IBU race was in full force then. That's all anybody cared about was the IBU and the extreme beers. But you had guys like Tommy, Arthur, you had Vinny Solorzo,
Russian
River. You had these folks making these incredibly nuanced, layered beers that just spoke to me. And at that point, we had beers that seemed more like an experience rather than a gimmick. And that entire race of all that, and it was cool. It was a kind of neat thing to watch unfold, the extreme beer thing. But looking back on it, I mean, we all know it was a gimmick. I mean, you were trying to come up with the next thing to, top the other person, do this. And when all your beers are like that and you're doing everything bigger and louder, don't you eventually get tired of yelling? Like I would get tired of yelling if that was me, if I was trying to talk over top of everything else that came about. So that's the subtle, when I first got into it, it was the subtle complexities that were inspired by the lambic breweries, by the saison breweries of Belgium, and some of the stuff, some of the wild stuff Danny was doing at Fantôme too.
Sure.
But so we had that, and then we moved into a phase that we have now. Are you looking for? Tokens?
No, I was just telling.
Oh,
yeah. Grab beer tokens. Grab free beers.
Beer tokens.
Yeah.
You'll want some. I have to talk.
Yes.
Where was I? So we had all that, and then along came other ways of creating these beers, and they became, instead of subtly complex, nuanced beers that were experiences, what they became was we were creating malted acid.
Yeah.
And we were playing off of what we, as the industry, we were playing off of what could we make to counteract that acid and still call it sour, because sours are still cool and sours are selling for $30 a bottle and people are lining up for these big bottles. So then we had that. And in my mind, we have shifted back to, we are moving back towards an experience with these beers. And that's what I try to create. That's what I enjoy about the process. That's what I enjoy talking about when we have people come in the tap room. I love to tell them about the different ingredients and how, if we want to admit it or not, the building is an ingredient. The shape of the barrel is an ingredient. The temperature is an ingredient. We don't have that written down on your brew sheet, but all those are part of the microflora, whether you're doing open fermentation or you're doing pure culture pitches and you're just letting that sit for 6 months and then doing a perpetual blend. All that stuff is still part of it. So I see us getting back to what I fell in love with in the late 90s, early 2000s, with the beers that I was being presented and learning how to brew from.
Who's buying the beers these days? Because this isn't me beating up on Gen Z, but I look back to when you and I first started drinking, right? Mm-hmm. And having a couple of bucks in my pocket, having a good group of friends that would get together, that maybe started traveling around a little bit. We'd do these bottle shares. People would show up with 22s or like whatever. And then we'd have this nice kill shot at the end of the night. And, it's like, we tried different things and we learned a little bit about that. And, I'm in my late 40s now. Like, I'm not drinking nearly as much, but I don't hear from brewers that they're getting those 21-year-olds that were doing it like when we were 21. That are doing bottle shares, that are getting stuff together. And that when you talk about, beers that you couldn't find, it's a little bit easier to find beers now. The direct-to-consumer shipping has made things a little bit easier. The internet's made things a lot easier. But this is me beating up on hazies a little bit, where when most 21-year-olds hit in the last 5 or so years, they're being introduced to a hazy IPA that a lot of them don't have nuance. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't have nuance, and they don't have bitterness, and there's not that focus on terroir or anything else like that. And it's very difficult, I think, if you're starting off on Treehouse or Trillium or even Voodoo Ranger or whatever else is out there. It's really difficult to get them to a Flemish Red. It's hard to get them to a Saison. It's hard to get them to anything that is not tropical, sweet, Citra, Mosaic. And again, but we had, ESBs as gateway beers, and we had early lagers
Bass
like
mine.
Bass Ale, right? Or
Bass
even
Ale was
Boddingtons, or some of these imports that sort of informed a lot of the beers. So I guess my question is, like, who's drinking the beers these days? Is it still our generation and older that's coming back to it after deviating down hazy IPA path or lager world or whatever, and then like, I want to mix it up a little bit? Or are you getting some of those 20-somethings in the tap room who are like, teach me about this? Is the curiosity there? Are you looking at notes?
Because I was hoping, and I swear he did not tee this question up for me, but I made a note.
Anybody who listens to this podcast, though, I do zero prep. I just show up and
buy beer.
That's it. Yeah,
buy beer. It's tokens.
It's tokens for everybody. Come get your beer tokens. Yeah. Seriously, come get your beer tokens. Yeah.
So. To answer your question about who is buying these beers, what I'm seeing, and this is just based on our tap room, we are seeing people that got tired. Beer fatigue, we speak about it, but beer fatigue is real on every single side of it. From the brewer's side, from the consumer side, it's a real thing. And so here's what I put down, and it sort of is beer got too predictable. The best experience in beers are the ones you usually remember that aren't the cleanest or safest ones. So people are deviating from their knowns, and they're wanting to explore this in a true place where they trust you. Now you have to build that trust first. Like you can't hand them some diacetyl-ridden lager and expect them to trust you to do this to your Flemish ale, but they will get on board from these entryway beers, even if they did get on board with a hazy.
Okay.
But what I'm seeing with the hazy folks is they are enjoying branching out, because when you're chasing the next great thing that tastes like the last great thing, that's pretty monotonous. And I think people are tired of the same old. Now, I'm not saying the quality. That's not it. It's just there's only so many flavors, and there's only so many hype marketing descriptor words that you can use for these. And I coming from a TV and media background, I mean, we had to come up with different adjectives and ways to say everything all the time. You had your catchphrases, but
the weather stories.
Yeah.
Get out the thesaurus. Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things. Well, that's one of the things that I'm seeing is people, the younger generation is in fact branching out. And when I say, and I just turned 50, but I can't believe I'm saying this, the ones that are 30 years younger, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, the younger generation, they're 10 years younger than me.
Yeah, they're kids,
It is, they want something to feel. They want something real. They want an experience that it doesn't have to be that wow factor that just blows you away, but they want it to feel personal. They want it to feel unique. With our beers, I always try to make sure our beers taste like they would at Yazoo in Nashville. I'm not trying to emulate what they're doing in Brussels. I'm not trying to emulate what is happening at Web City or Jester King. Like, I'm not trying to do that, because that's boring to me. If it tasted the same, then why would you travel all the way to Nashville to drink my beer when it tastes the same as Jester King? Like, you should have I love having, I love having lanes, but also the dotted part of the interstate is pretty cool to change over and go to also, but you're still on the same highway.
Yeah. What I find interesting about that, though, is, and I've seen a couple of studies that younger drinkers are looking for that experience, and they're looking for something that they can identify with. And, it's a lot of it is Instagrammable as well. I think you do a great job with art with Embrace the Funk, and Yazoo does as well, of just sort of, you do it with Embrace the Funk. And there's a status thing of being seen with a bottle or a can that I think people like. But that if it tells a story within their story, they seem to be a little bit more attracted to it. And so you talked about, beers being, like made in a particular brewery, or, having ingredients that are harvested from someplace in particular. But how do you tell the story of place? You started to kind of go down that road, but like for your beers, because anybody who follows your social media, and if they don't, they should.
Yes.
You weave these these cool tales of how a beer came to be and where the ingredients came from, and then how much time it's spent in wood or stainless or whatever, and why you like the expression that it is when you're ready to release it to the world. And you're telling that story as well, but like walk me through how you craft the story of place with your beers, and even just pick one if you want to kind of draw that out.
Part of that I can answer in a way that I hear it is a business. I mean, it's a fun business, but it's still a business. And you have to optimize everything, especially in this economy and this set. Everything has to be optimized. But I feel like that at a certain point, we optimize the joy out of this whole thing by making everything so Instagrammable and so perfect. And I don't love a perfect world. I don't. I love the beauty of the rawness in some of these. I love the beauty in the unpredictable in it. So the way that I set up some of these beers is, or a lot of them, I'm a yeast person. I love different microbes. I love seeing how these beers react in different conditions. So I back build a lot of my beers based upon what yeast I want to use. And so then I think, okay, how would this react if we didn't? Will this need acid, or is this going to react more with hops? Okay, we'll go down that path. And so then we get to a certain point where I've built the concept. We've done the beer. We go to taste it, and the beer is good, but we need to blend, and so that creates another layer of the story. And I feel like I'm going off off of what you were saying.
Just keep going, yeah.
But and they're doing stretch back there. So
okay.
No.
Yeah,
okay.
Fill the time. Fill the time.
So what they so you got to. I find myself dialing this story back because there is so many layers, and there's so many ways that you can tell the story. But I always try to think. I said this in one of my last talks. Is my first salary job that I ever had was very recently, and it was with Yazoo. I was a hourly wage employee for all my life, even my days in television. I got paid hourly, and I look at it as somebody gets, let's say $15 an hour, and I'm selling a $15 4-pack. Did I provide them with enough product, enough quality product, and a pure enough product to where that justified their 1 hour of work during the day? And that sets off a lot in my mind of how we're going to package this. I mean, there's some beers I simply can't. Like, if somebody, I don't remember who it said, but you can get mad at me about my, if I had a lager that was $10, get mad at me about that, but don't get mad if I have a $30 bottle of a beer that we've had to age and do all this stuff to. That's not my fault. We have to have that in there.
Right.
But if we're paying, we're charging that. But anyway, that's off the subject. I look at it in so many different ways to tell the story from the cost standpoint, from how many people can have in the tap room. If it's going to be a tap room only release, or if this is one that we are sending out to distro, we have to think of we have to try to think of every avenue we can to get that story across.
As we I feel like we're at this point, and you touched on it, of just kind of coming around a little bit more. And I think that once again, people are thinking about mixed fermentation. They're paying a little bit more attention to saison. I think what's happening in the industry right now, there's a lot of brewers that are thinking about, what are the beers that I want to make? What are the beers that actually bring me joy, that I want to experiment with and go from there? And I think mixed culture is one of those where I don't think we're going to be back in an era, and I hope we're not, where people are just buying them to put them in their cellar to get dusty. You've been a big proponent of drink this now. Buy it now,
Absolutely.
Drink it now. I think the days of trading are lessened in a lot of ways. But as we look to 2027, 2028, and beyond, and there's going to be new breweries that start to open that might want to do this, as, and I mean this in the nicest way, as one of the elder statesmen now of funk, of mixed fermentation, where do you want that next generation of brewers to start? What should they be thinking about before they even start a mixed culture program? Because I think about 2016, 17, 18, and it's like, oh yeah, I got a barrel program. We got some barrels. We threw them in the back, and it's like, well, what are you doing with them? It's like, I don't know. We just threw some shit in it. We're gonna figure it out and go. And it's like, and then when everything crashed after COVID, it's like COVID separately. All those programs were going to crash anyway because it was battery acid in a barrel. And so where should the next generation of brewers be thinking and starting if they choose to follow in the tracks that you have laid down and, Jester King and Keeping Together and, all of these other, Web City, all of these great places that I think people respect? They can follow your path, but where do they start?
With the mindset of, with a mixed culture program, you don't need to set out to shock people. You need to show them what they didn't know they were missing. And doing that, I think, sets people on a proper path to good techniques. I mean, we've laid a lot of stuff out. I'm not saying it's the end all be all is milk the funk and embrace the funk. There's a lot of ways to learn about this stuff, but I feel like you could start a great mixed culture program in a very simple way with a couple of barrels. I mean, we did. I started to embrace the funk with one barrel. Yeah, that was it. It was 159-gallon barrel, and I was, thankfully it was from Russian River.
I was going to say, that's not.
I did have a little bit of a head start there, but you've got such great yeast providers now, and you don't have to buy. There's nobody from Y Yeast in here. You don't have to buy all your stuff from Y Yeast. Or White Labs.
This next segment brought to you by
my bootleg biology. See Jeff Mello. My point is there's more than explore past the big ones. If you're going to go down this road where you're going to have to take all this time and put all this effort into it, and it may or may not work out, then try it in a little more thoughtful way with a smaller yeast lab, like some of the ones that like Bootleg. It's not sponsored by Bootleg.
No,
it's in Nashville.
What Jeff is doing is great. I'm not gonna disagree with that.
I think that's how you could set your mixed culture program off, so it doesn't taste like every other mixed culture program that has started before, and it doesn't taste boring. And again, you give people what they didn't know they were missing by providing that. And it can be as simple as buy two. I mean, most of these smaller yeast labs will make you a custom blend. Like back in the day, you had to order 40 barrel pitches to get custom blends. Most of these small labs, man, they'll make it for you. They'd love to make yeast for you in mixed culture because they don't get to do it much anymore. So,
but I mean, even starting with a custom blend feels to me like that's 6 steps down the road versus.
It is.
Yeah.
You're right. It is. I guess what I'm saying is, start out with getting something from a smaller lab and then work towards that.
Yeah.
I guess I should have phrased it that way. So instead of getting the French yeast, so I don't have to say the yeast supplier again.
Okay.
So like the French yeast, French Saison yeast. Anyway, go with a different lab. To me, that's the easiest thing you could do is if X is here, get Y here. And ask questions. I think that's one of the coolest things about mixed culture is most brewers love to talk about it.
Yes.
They love to talk about it. We miss being able to talk about it a lot, and we miss being able to help the next person make that beer because, trust me, as you said, as one of the elders, I want this to continue. I want this to last for a long time in the United States, and I want it to be quality. And again, I want people to be joyful about what they're producing and what they're buying, because you don't want. Again, like I said, we optimize the joy out of a lot of it, and these things should be fun. And I know there's breweries that's all they do is mixed culture, but these little small projects like these mixed firms and Saison programs, those should be a part to differentiate yourself from the other brewery that is doing the hazies, that is doing the marshmallow strawberry kettle sour. That should be your differentiation point. And you can get people hooked in with basic, and I would tell them, like, don't shoot for the ceiling at that point. Go with something Brett Saison. Do a Brett Saison.
Sure.
At first. Experience what it does, because again, like I said, it's, whether we want to admit it, the room is an ingredient. Everything about your facility is an ingredient when you start getting into these long-term mixed firm programs.
I'm glad you said long-term, because there is patience is important. Mm-hmm. Trusting the process is important, but also when it doesn't work out, you can be months, years removed from when you first did it. And I think that was what led a lot of the industry astray, was this turned, it's not coming back, but we need to sell it anyway.
Yep.
And, it was convincing the people that drinking sand was good for them when they were thirsty, and like it didn't help. But like, talk to me about when you have something in fooders and barrels for, let's say, 18 months plus, and how, one, when something is ready, because it speaks to your brewer brain that I could taste and be like, oh, this is fine. You're like, yeah, but it's not there yet.
Yeah.
And then when you know that you have to give it up. But like, let's do both sides of that coin.
Okay.
Like, something that's been in a barrel for 18 months, mm-hmm. and you're like, yes, this is ready now. What happens in your brewer brain to tell you that?
If it was a dark sour or like a Flemish red, I would be looking for depth of, we'd probably have those in wine barrels or cognac or something like that. I would be looking to see how much barrel character there is. So when you start reaching that point, you start getting mostly wood. And since most of these beers are, sub 6%, sub 7%, you don't have that big malt backbone. So I would start looking to see, okay, is the oak and the spirit flavor or the wine flavor, is that overriding everything about it? Is that, is it just straight up, if it was gin barrels, I'm like, oh, man, it tastes like straight up gin. Like, that's not fun. So then I would be thinking about other ways to make that expression a little less in there. If it's a beer that has gone bad, you can use. It's knowing your cultures, and it's knowing your ingredients, and it's knowing your microflora. Because again, while working with a small yeast lab, they can guide you typically on, unless it's like a super wild strain that you've isolated somewhere. They can guide you on what to expect, and you're like, hey, this isn't really going right. This is kind of smelling this way. Oh, well, you know what? About another 6-8 weeks, man, that's going to turn a corner. It'll reuptake some of these off characters. I spent a long time in my early parts of Embrace the Funk selecting what cultures we were going to use. So I did know if I pitched it at 60 degrees, it's going to do this. If we pitch it at 70, we do this. If we're doing spontaneous, then all that's out the window. But yeah, I spent a long time trying to.
Is spontaneous dead?
Dead?
Our cool ships just.
I have not used our cool ship since 2024.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Unfortunately, and I forgot about the ideas for the kids' swimming lessons during the Britannomyces shortage.
Anyway, I stepped on you. Yeah.
So. Unfortunately, we haven't. We also moved our facility.
Yes.
We consolidated. We used to have a separate mixed culture building that was about 15 minutes from the main brewery. With everything in Nashville, the rent went up, and we decided that was not feasible because, again, we would have to raise prices in a market. We'd have to go this way with the prices while the market's doing this. So that was not the best idea. So we haven't, unfortunately, we haven't done any spontaneous. I still have some spontaneous barrels that are okay.
Okay.
I think I will end up destroying those.
All right. So why? So what is it that when you're tasting them, you're like, this is just not?
It was the move. It was straight up the move.
Okay.
The beer was great at the cellar. We moved them. You have, this much headspace inside there. It gets jostled up in the 15 to 20 minute drive, and it just became vinegar.
Okay.
Some of them, there were a couple. So in our old building, I knew we had this corner. We shared a building with Boar's Head Meats, and so they had a big cooler that ran along one of the walls, and it was very nice temps all year round. So I would put some of these long-term beers that I knew we were going to age at least 2 to 3 years. They went on that wall. And so there were a few that were over there that were on the lower floor, cold sinks, heat rises. So they were the ones that were kind of on the bottom rack. And those still, I tasted those maybe about a month ago. And there were 4 barrels of those that I thought that we could still do something with. But I mean, I'm kind of almost out of spontaneous. Like I will have run out.
Yeah.
And even if we did it now, in the spring, I don't know what we would get. We never really did any spawn like this late. So even if I did it now, I wouldn't have anything until late 2027, maybe almost 20. And after you bottle condition it, we're talking 2028. So,
and you're not having people clamor for it.
No.
Okay.
No, I've doubled down on this. Everybody says don't use the word saison. I doubled down on it. I was like, you know what? We're going to call everything that. We're going to start.
Who is saying don't say saison?
There's a number of brewers that say if you want to sell a saison, don't call it a saison.
I mean that doesn't square at your place.
No. But I think
But you also have a reputation of that.
I mean, I would hope that they would trust me in it, and if it's something new, that they would trust and buy it. And our saison program I think it does really, really well for us. And we try to make these different variants and not go too far astray with it. But having the saisons or having the saisons presented as very drinkable, with a story of this is what it tastes like here. Having walking through people when they are interested, in coming over from a lager, or the easiest ways I tell people from a lager, I'm like, man, a saison's just a lager that walked through a flower field, and they love that because
I love that. That's
it
a great line.
expresses it, and they're like, oh well, okay, so it's 5-6%. There's gonna be some floral notes, and all right, so those little lines like that are easy ways to get people to try them. And I think we had an era too of every saison had to be. There were a lot of sour saisons, and I made acidic saisons. So when I say sour saisons, I mean like almost
super
golden
acidic.
sour.
Yeah,
I mean it's might as well as like you made a golden sour and you use the saison yeast, and it's pH is like 3.4. Like it's a sour blonde at that point. It's not a saison.
Yeah.
So what I've tried to do is make sure that ours are approachable, reflect the ingredients that we have available, and again make sure that they're affordable for people.
I want to switch gears and have you make the case for cider right now, because it's one of those things where craft has played around it for a long time. And on the very big end of the spectrum, there's Angry Orchard and a couple of others, mostly Angry Orchard. And then there's super
Just
niche
not cider.
It's okay, but there's super niche ciders then. But finding that balance for everyday drinking, regular drinking, weekend drinking, if it's celiac, or I just want something different, or I just want, something that isn't beer, but that's, it's not even fair to call it beer adjacent, but like cider has always been lumped in more with beer than it has, I'd say, with wine and certainly with spirits.
Yeah, which is wild because we had to get wine licensure to be able to produce them.
Right. So what drew you to making ciders in the first place? And then how is it going?
So I'm fortunate to pour at some of the beer fest in Brussels and in Europe. And a few years ago, I tasted through some of the really dry kind of natural ciders at the festivals, and I was like, God, there's so many tie-ins to everything that I love about strains of Belgian yeast, what our saisons are. Like, there was a lot of familiarity there. And then speaking with some of the producers there, we were saying the same descriptors, and so it was everything that I liked about it, about the beers that I made. And that kind of natural unpredictability about it, and the different variants of the apples and how those interacted with the acid. So I became, obsessed is a little strong, but I became really adamant about finding out how we could do a Tennessee cider. And we have this strain of yeast that we isolated in Nashville. We use it in a beer called Local.
Yeah.
But we did some small batch ciders, and we ultimately decided on using that strain of yeast. And so what I found is most people, they like a low ABV dry cider with character. If you're going to a craft brewery, you can get your great clean lagers. But they were really interested in finding out more about these bright ciders that had this strain of yeast that provided a little bit extra phenolics. And we ferment it colder than we do any of our other beers that we do with that strain, because it does get a little more expressive at the upper temps. But the clear low firm absolutely thrives with the ciders. So after coming back from those festivals, I wanted to do it. I knew we were moving the cellar at the time, so I kind of, I didn't know if it was going to work. I really did not know. And so we were like, screw it. Let's launch with 3 ciders and see what happens. So we did a cherry, an imperial, and a one we call base, which I didn't ever mean for it to be called base cider.
Original recipe.
It's such a brewer's thing is the base beer, the base cider. And so I said it one day, and it got printed on our stuff, and so we just kind of ran with it. So it's like
neutral.
Okay, yeah. And so, but people like that. Oh, we'll have some of your base, and then we just call it the base now, which is it's not even the base for anything anymore. It was the base for the cherry, but we use a different. We actually have foeder aged cider now, but we use the foeder aged cider for the fruited versions now. It's going good. I mean, we are able to bring over the folks, like you said, with some health concerns, but also the folks that just they're at a brewery, they don't want to drink beer, they don't like beer, and they're wrong, but they can. But we provided them with a cider, and the wine folks. We find a lot of folks that are wine drinkers like, oh yeah, we're in. They taste it, and they end up going through like the whole gambit of whatever 2 or 3 ciders that we have on, and they love them. And so it's people are, when they come to the brewery, they don't expect us to have one. So I mean, I think we could certainly do more marketing on it. But yeah, it's in distro. It goes. We're doing distro in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina with that. I don't know if Kentucky gets any or not, but I think it's doing fine. I mean, have we, gone way up with it? No. Do we have the potential to scale it? Yeah. But I like it because it's different, and it is marketed under an Embrace the Funk side of things.
Yeah.
So it does have this little logo on the side of the packaging. So folks that aren't familiar, or folks that are familiar with it, would immediately make connection. Other folks kind of look and go, oh, funk, and it kind of sets them up for that, hey, this isn't going to be a super clean, across the board cider like some of the brands that you mentioned.
Yeah. More in a moment, but first, a word from this episode's sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by John I. Haas on their new LupoCore Enhanced T90 hop pellets, engineered for peak sensory performance and ultimate peace of mind. Designed for brewers of all sizes, LupoCore delivers consistent sensory outcomes, reliable brewhouse performance, and scalable application across production volumes. Using Sensory Plus selected hops and Haas's advanced pellet processing technology, LupoCore elevates hop expression while reducing brew process loss. all without requiring brewers to change their process. Contact your Haas Sales Representative or visit lupohops.com to learn more.
Today's episode is brought to you by stompstickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with stompstickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting stompstickers.com. You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com.
If you were at CBC in Philadelphia, hopefully you stopped by the Senos booth or ran into them at their sponsored events around Philly. For everyone who missed it, Senos announced their latest hardware innovations. Senos is the world's first complete solution for data-driven fermentation management. Real-time, predictive insights directly from your tanks, within reach for every brewery. Catch issues early, save batches, and grow your margins. Brew smarter at senos.com. That's SENNOS.com.
And now, back to the conversation with Brandon Jones.
It's got to be fun as a brewer to do something different, right? Because it is, you had to get the different license, and even though it's still fermentation, you're still, fermenting different ingredients, and you're still kind of like, is that where you're drawing inspiration from these days of trying to find different creative avenues that can still kind of go back to what brought you in the first place?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's one of the best ways to sum it up because
you don't seem tired, right? And I mean that in a really nice way where there's like...
How do I look?
That's a separate story. We all look tired right now. But there's... when I talk to brewers that are not just mashing in the same thing week after week after week because it's selling well and that's what we need to do to keep the lights on, there are that little bit of creativity I think is good for the soul, but then also leads you down into unexpected places, and it feels like that's what's happening for you right now.
Yeah. Oh, it's certainly. I mean, again, at that point, we were moving out of the cellar, and that was a bummer. But then I had this whole cider thing to look forward to, and it reinvigorated a lot of my rabbit hole going down for finding out about heck, I hadn't bought a brewing book in a while.
Yeah.
So I purchased a couple of books. I was able to read books again. So yeah, it was. I mean, for me, it was a good thing personally, just to have something new to look forward to and create, and try to see where I could push where I thought was comfortable in something that I could make that I think people would want to drink and not just collect and take a picture of.
Yeah, and I think we're here at the Craft Brewers Conference. This is usually that week. I guess it's 2.5 days now of educational seminars, of trying to reconnect with the industry. And I know for consumers that are listening to this, it's sort of difficult, because you're not here, but I think the consumers are the direct benefit of brewers getting together in situations like this, or even the travel that you do. And I understand that most brewers can't do a lot of travel, but every time I talk to you after you come back from wherever you are, you're jazzed, and you're getting back into the lab, and you're getting down to writing something down, and it shows in your beers. And I think that is something that I'd like more brewers to be taking away, from experiences like this, is get out of your own space and go to folks that are smarter than you, or go to folks that do something completely different than you do, right? It's, like, I'm not knocking, I am a little bit, the collaborations where it's like two IPA brewers get together and, hey, we brewed an IPA. It's like nobody learned anything. And, like, you just kind of fucked around, and like that's fine. But like, there should be a takeaway, from that. And again, sort of like, when folks come to you, is that what you're telling them? Like, get out of your comfort zone and
yeah. So to do something different, find out what's inspiring you at this. Why were you going there? Like, why were you going to Australia? Why were you going? Okay, well, if you're going to Australia, then learn about some of the indigenous ingredients down there and how many different herbs and spices are available for brewing or distilling. If you're into that, it's you can bring back so much and adapt it to become your own, and do it honestly, and make it add personality to your beer. Like, that's the thing that, I don't know, that's the thing that I kind of, when I look at a lot of the beers, and you're saying about two IPA brewers getting together and making an IPA, and I'm like, God, that's just, come on, man. Like,
I feel like this is it the Drake meme where it's like two IPA brewers making IPA, and it's like, no. But then I'm like, two Saison brewers making a Saison. It's like, yeah.
No, I mean, it's, but you have to learn something from it, though. And even like, so with the Phantom collab, Danny and I.
Let's talk about that, because there's a corn Saison.
Corn Saison.
Yeah.
And Danny had never worked with corn. And so I got to, as best as I could, explain Tennessee corn to him. So there is an exchange of knowledge, and I can't say all the spices in there and the herbs that Danny told me, because the Phantom never tells.
Okay.
But I learned a lot about his process.
Okay, this is like a customs form thing that you don't want to address, but yeah, that's
yes.
fine.
You can be on the same plane, but you can learn about what each other is doing. I mean, we like with Jeff Stubbings and I, when we were doing I don't even remember what we were doing, if it was a Spawn or if it was a Saison or something, and then we kept talking about doing something else, and we thought, oh man, wouldn't it be really funny if we made an IPA? Because nobody would expect us to make an IPA, and now we're 7 years later into making this IPA every year now, called Pale Green Horse. And so we have both learned. We came together on a common ground, but Jeff and I, every time we make that beer, it's different hops, it's different advanced hop products, and we learned so much just exchanging information between each other on IPAs now, and that's because we are looking to learn something from it, and looking ahead to how we can incorporate these other processes in our beers, like the corn and the Saison. Now, I'm not the first person to make a corn Saison at all, but it's, there are different variants. I joked around one of the other talks, and I was like, I love making corn beers. There's so many fun, unique varieties of corn out there that people, I feel like it's pigeonholed into lagers. And I was like, we're going to make it's corn, corn Saisons, and there's a little bit of corn. We use a little bit of corn in DeRouches, our Flanders Red. So there's a lot of practicality for something like corn. So it's brought to you by the American Corn Growers Association.
And having those brewers that you trust, that you can learn from, and that can learn from you as well. I mean, that's something that I want that next generation to have as
Absolutely.
well. And
I just want them to. What I would ask of the next generation is to ask questions. I promise you, somebody like me, I promise you, I'd like to talk to you about it. I want your program to succeed. I do. I want you to come out on the other side of your project going, man, that is a tasty, tasty beer that we did. I want your customers to do that. And I want, hopefully in the end, it brings it all back up again, and the quality is there, and people are excited about. But we'll never get back to any sort of level up here from being down here if we don't increase the quality and the consumer education on what these styles are, whether they just be straight up Belgian singles or mixed firm. We'll never get there. So yeah, ask the questions. I mean, I think most brewers are happy to talk about it. I've said it before, and I truly mean that. They can't stand around and talk to you for an hour,
right?
But
no, come with questions. Yeah, don't come looking for
and don't say I want to pick your brain. Don't say that.
No,
I hate that term.
Okay.
I don't say
what do you prefer?
Just ask the question.
Scrape your cranium? Like, what's the...
Can I buy you dinner?
Can I...
Most brewers, they're happy to answer the questions in mixed firm because it's something we're passionate about. And I know, the group that I speak with a lot, and I know that we want things to be said. What I'm trying to say, we want things to be not. We don't want like old knowledge to be repeated that is not true, and I think that's what happened too. We were in a part of brewing, a transition part where there were a lot of old homebrew myths that transferred into mixed culture and sour, like Brett souring. That's one that I've tried to stomp down for a number of years. But
those are the beers that they put on the ships that went from England to India, right? That's right. The same
right.
kind of thing.
I think it was the same brewery did that.
All right, really quick before I let you go, because you were on one of the very earliest episodes of this show, and then I don't think you've been back on in a couple of years, and I don't think I've asked you the green door question.
I don't even know what that is.
All right, thanks for listening to the show every week. So since COVID, on this show, I've been asking folks as the final question. The premise is this. On the television show The Good Place, in the final season, they introduce a concept of a green door that the characters can walk through and be wherever they want, doing whatever they want. So if we had a green door on our plane of existence, Brandon Jones, then this conversation ended and you could walk through it and be in any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world. Where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking?
All right. Is pub and brewery two separate things?
It's pub or brewery, like where? Yeah.
Okay.
A place to drink.
A place to drink.
Yes.
I would go to Mutter Lambic.
All right.
That way I could get all my Lambic. I could get all the Saison that I like and all the Duranca XX bitter.
Okay. Who's with you?
Well, since we've been talking about going someday, I guess you.
All
this
right.
would be your chance.
I'm in. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Hey, that's Brandon Jones, everybody. Thanks for hanging out at Human Robot.
Thanks to Brandon, Human Robot, and everyone who came out to listen, and to the sponsors that made the show possible. A quick reminder, you can raise a glass to a one-of-a-kind Adirondack getaway. Blackfly Beer Camp is happening June 26 to 28, and it brings together professional brewers, passionate home brewers, and craft beer enthusiasts for a weekend filled with flavor, fun, and fireside camaraderie. It's all set against the backdrop of Great Kent Sagamore's legendary wilderness retreat. You can spend 3 unforgettable days immersing yourself in the art, science, and joy of brewing. Enjoy thoughtfully paired meals, hands-on learning, spirited entertainment, and plenty of opportunities to taste and talk beer with some of the region's finest makers. Whether you're a seasoned brewer or simply love a good pint, this weekend offers something for every palate. Breathe deep, sip well, and savor the spirit of craft brewing in a place unlike any other. Blackfly Beer Camp is your invitation to connect, learn, and celebrate the craft, Adirondack style. Spots are limited. Reserve your experience now at sagamore.org, and I hope to see you there. You can always reach me by email at johnhall@allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL @allaboutbeer.com. Make sure you join the This Week in Rauk Beer group on Facebook or follow at TW Rauk Beer on Instagram. Upload your photos, join the conversation. And you can support us by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support. When you're at the website, you can check out new content as well as the archives going back to 1979 and find the links to follow All About Beer on social media. Before we run, here is a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
This episode is sponsored by John I. Haas on their new LupoCore Enhanced T90 hop pellets, engineered for peak sensory performance and ultimate peace of mind. Designed for brewers of all sizes, LupoCore delivers consistent sensory outcomes, reliable brewhouse performance, and scalable application across production volumes. Using Sensory Plus selected hops and Haas's advanced pellet processing technology, LupoCore elevates hop expression while reducing brew process loss, all without requiring brewers to change their process. Contact your Haas Sales Representative or visit lupohops.com to learn more.
Today's episode is brought to you by stompstickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with stompstickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting stompstickers.com. You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com.
If you were at CBC in Philadelphia, hopefully you stopped by the Senos booth or ran into them at their sponsored events around Philly. For everyone who missed it, Senos announced their latest hardware innovations. Senos is the world's first complete solution for data-driven fermentation management. Real-time, predictive insights directly from your tanks, within reach for every brewery. Catch issues early, save batches, and grow your margins. Brew smarter at Senos.com. That's SENNOS.com.
If you like smart audio content, a reminder that All About Beer has a separate podcast channel. Search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. You can listen to shows like Brewer to Brewer, which is now a weekly show, One Iconic Beer with Jeff Allworth, and the All About Beer podcast with M. Souter and Don Tess. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday, and the BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. As for the show, Nate Schweber does the music. He'll be at Black Fly Beer Camp. Come listen. Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Hall. I'll also be at Beer Camp. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.